Welcome to Talkin' Mets with Rob. Subscribe to the channel for all your new. Welcome to Talkin' Mets with Rob. Subscribe to the channel for all your New York Mets in-game live, pre-game, post-game, roundtable podcast, and all the breaking news for our New York Mets. Enjoy the show and let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell! Give 'em a hand! And let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town, of New York town.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Mets Talk Live. A little different than what we were going to start today with a Mets pregame show. But as most of you know, if you do not, we will have breaking news here. The Mets and Braves game has been postponed tonight and tomorrow, and a doubleheader is scheduled for Monday. Start time is 1 p.m. and it is a straight doubleheader. That means about 25 to 30 minutes, not even. After the first game, the second game will be played. Now, we will get into the scenarios on if that second game will be played, depending on the circumstance. There's many different scenarios. I've tried to write them down, but there could be many more scenarios. But I'm going to start by saying hello. We don't have to sweat and be nervous, because no matter what, the New York Mets will not be eliminated by the time Monday comes, regardless of what happens in Milwaukee, regardless of what the Braves do, or what the Arizona Diamondbacks do. Because as of right now, the Mets have technically a game-and-a-half lead on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Say if the Mets get swept in Milwaukee, the Diamondbacks win. Now, it depends on what today happens, right? If the Diamondbacks lose today, it's only a half a game, so they'd be tied. So, say the Diamondbacks sweep the Padres and the Braves sweep Kansas City. The Mets are not eliminated. It would come down to the first game on Monday because all they would have to do is be tied with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Or if they lose game 1 of that series, they have to win game 2 to make the playoffs and be tied with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Because the Braves would have the season series and they would have that tiebreaker against us. So there is so much. That is the funny thing. And Chris just said it. The Mets still control their own destiny. And basically what they really have to do is just outperform the Arizona Diamondbacks, not even outperform the Braves. Here's the thing. We want the Braves to win now. And I'm going to explain to you why. If you care about seeding, then don't watch the ball games because you're just going to drive yourself crazy. Just making the playoffs is what we're talking about here. If the Mets and Braves win, well, put it this way, if the Mets do their job, if they take, say, 1 game, the Diamondbacks have to win at least 2 games. Now, this depends on what happens tonight against the Giants. If they lose tonight, they're basically 2 games behind the Mets. So the Mets only have to win 1 game in Milwaukee to clinch a playoff berth. Whatever seeding it might be, 2nd or 3rd. So that's the sign right there. That's a good sign right there. What this 2 games do is put all the pressure on the Arizona Diamondbacks now. And as we know, the Padres could be fighting for the NL West division title, which seems like it's going to happen in that series. So they'll be playing the Arizona Diamondbacks hard. And the Diamondbacks have not been playing well at all as they lost the first 2 to the Giants at home. So it's going to be very interesting. Again, let's start over. For everybody who's just tuning in, please hit on that like button, subscribe to the channel. Yes, this is a Mets Talk Live because just recently ago, the Major League Baseball has postponed the game tonight and already postponed the game tomorrow. So not only do the Mets get 2 more days off and Lindor gets more healthier, the pitching can set up any way you want to at this point now. The only guy that can't pitch is Severino until the last game of the Milwaukee series, and that game might not be needed because here's one scenario. We're gonna try to do this plan by plan. All right, plan by plan. And by the way, guys, the reason why you don't want the Braves to lose is because of the fact that they will have the tiebreaker against the Mets. Well, they won't have the tiebreaker, but here's the problem. If the Arizona Diamondbacks start playing well and they're in this mix, because the Mets and the Braves have the tiebreaker, and why you don't want the Braves to lose, because if they lose and the Diamondbacks fall within the range of a playoff spot, because we have the tiebreaker, the Mets and the Braves have the tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks, we're going to have to play those games on Monday. That's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid meaningful games for the New York Mets on Monday, because then the Braves and the Mets have to play those games to determine if Arizona makes the playoffs. That's the problem. That's why you want the Braves to win, because if the Braves win and the Mets win, and they're at least 2 games better than the Diamondbacks when Sunday ends, then we don't have to play those games on Monday, because no matter if the Mets lose 2 more times against the Braves or the Braves lose 2 more times against the Mets, the Diamondbacks don't have the tiebreaker. So this is the scenario where you want the Braves to win. And if Diamond, okay, so that's a scenario there. Second scenario, if the Diamondbacks lose tonight, is the best case scenario for the Mets overall. Because if they lose tonight against the Giants, the Mets will be fully up on record 1 game, but because of the tiebreaker, it's 2 games. So let's do the math. If the Mets win one game in Milwaukee, the Diamondbacks cannot pass the Mets, right? Unless the Mets lose a couple of games and they get swept. It's crazy. It's such a breakdown because what the Mets and Braves are trying to do is now, because what I'm talking about when you look at the Mets, because those two games haven't been played, the Mets and the Braves will have two games in hand. But it doesn't matter who loses or wins. Like the Major League Baseball and the Mets and the Braves, to be quite honest with you, they're not going to want to play those games on Monday for seeding. Because if it comes down to overall, are the Mets really going to put those pitchers? Are you going to pitch Sean Manaea and Severino on Monday just to get the number 2 seed in the wild card? Or would you rather get the 3rd seed? Nobody's going to want to play those games, the Braves or the Mets. So they can just both forfeit those games because it doesn't matter, because the Diamondbacks don't have the season series, the tiebreaker against either of them. So basically the Mets, not the Braves. The Braves can see, this is why the Braves can't lose. We need the Braves to win, because if the Braves lose, say 2 out of 3, and the Diamondbacks are ahead of the Braves, or the Braves are tied with the Diamondbacks, we're gonna have to play those games. Now, we don't have to play them hard. We can sit a lot of our guys. We don't have to pitch anybody important because it ain't gonna matter to us. But it will matter to the Braves and the Diamondbacks. So it's crazy, guys. It is a crazy scenario, and this is all Major League Baseball's fault for waiting until 5 p.m. on Wednesday to cancel both games when they could have just went to a neutral site somewhere close. They could have went to Miami. They could have played the game tomorrow. They could have flied there today. Well, I mean, they not really, because who knows what the weather is shit in Florida. If I'm not mistaken, Ken, I think it's bad right now because the hurricane's basically there. But they could have flew somewhere else. They could have flew up to, I don't know, somewhere in Milwaukee. You know, it's crazy. JB, this wasn't a Braves decision. Major League Baseball put the hammer down here, because when there's a hurricane situation, it's an emergency situation. This goes to Major League Baseball. Now, of course, Major League Baseball is going to look at the home team as a beneficiary of this, money-wise, of course. But the fact is, Steven, if you're not worried about the Brewers, you're not paying attention of how good that team is. Sorry to say. Yeah, MLB has done a terrible job. This should have been decided yesterday. So teams could have flew out, and they probably could have played these games, at least one of them, somewhere else. But they didn't. Central and North Florida, not Miami. Yeah, but they also got to fly into that or around it. And who knows how flying and, you know, the planes are getting redirected. It's crazy. It is crazy. The Braves were still in Miami over the weekend. Yeah, and that's the other thing, Mike, 100%. Now, yesterday's game should have been played in Atlanta, right? The weather was fine. But they could have fixed those games in Miami, the closest area to Georgia, obviously. So, I don't know. It's a crazy scenario. There's so much to really break down. I would have to get a whiteboard and figure everything out, like step by step, because when I'm talking about it, some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't, because again, the Mets, now again, the Diamondbacks lose today. The Mets just need one game in Milwaukee. Just one game. The Mets would need one game in Milwaukee and one Arizona loss. That would automatically have 3 games up on the Diamondbacks officially because of the tiebreaker. It would be 2 officially when you see the number, but it would be 3 because of the tiebreaker. that doesn't do anything. That series on Monday means nothing. Those 2 games. Because the Diamondbacks can't catch us. They can catch the Braves, depending on what the Braves do. So what you want the Braves to do here is if the Diamondbacks lose today, the Braves would be a half a game out. The Braves would have to take 2 out of 3 against Kansas City, and the Diamondbacks can't catch them, and then we don't have to play those Monday games at all because nobody's going to care about seeding. The teams are not going to play on Monday to determine seeding. They're just going to go by season series or however they're going to do it. Major League Baseball is going to do it. I don't know if they go to season series with the Mets and the Braves. They probably will. That means the Braves will have the tiebreaker, and the Braves would be the second wild card, and we would be the third wild card, and we'll be heading to Milwaukee. So that scenario I know for sure because the math is just obvious. I would like to get a pen and paper and figure this out. Give me a second. I really want to do this. I want to try to get the best case scenario for the Mets. All right, hold on. I'm trying to get a pen and paper. I'm calling in reinforcements here. my dad's hanging out here, so trying to get me pen and paper so we can figure this out. But don't worry, guys. We're gonna write this down. This is live what mathematics here. We're doing a math class here. We're doing scenarios. It's like quantum physics here. Andreas, I don't think it's bad at all. I think this is the best case scenario for the Mets. How about the Braves? Knicks, yeah, the Philly has been good. I mean, they won the division. I mean, good for them. I don't care about them, but it is what it is. So as of right now, guys, all we know is that Monday will be a doubleheader. The game will start at 1 p.m. in Atlanta, and it's a straight doubleheader, which means after the first game, the second game will play within 20 to 30 minutes of the first game. So there we go. Explosive. I'm not worrying about the pitching matchup on Monday until we actually need the game. All right, we're getting reinforcements here. Hi, Dad.
Hey, Rob. Hey, Met fans. They shouldn't play games in the South in September during hurricane season.
All right, here we go, guys. We're writing it down. I got my handy dandy notebook, as Blue's Clues says. I got my pen. All right, here we go. Scenario 1. All right. The Mets are a half a game. Well, a game and a half over D-backs right now, right? 1 game over Braves. If the Mets, now how many wins do the Arizona has? 87-69. And depending on, let's just put a loss in the Diamondbacks column because that's the easiest way to do this math. Right here, guys. Here we go. We got the whiteboard right here. Don't mind my handwriting. Apologies. So let's say the Diamondbacks are 87 and 7. What the hell are they? 87 and 70, right? They would have the same record as the Mets, right? So the Mets would be up. It would be a full game, basically, right? Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to figure this one out. Wait a second. Hold on. Wait, guys. I gotta get the right. I think I put the wrong. Yes, I knew I did it. God damn it. All right. So disregard that wild card standings. They have 71 losses. The Diamondbacks. Sorry about. So they're 87 and 71. Let's say they're 87 and 72. The Mets have full 2 games, right? Yes, they would have a full 2-game lead on the Diamondbacks if they lose. So it would be 2 games, right? And the Braves would have a half a game. They would have a full game over the Braves Mets, and the Braves, all right, would have they would be back a half a game. All right, there we go. There we go. Look at that. There we go. Look at that nasty handwriting. We love it. No, Andreas. No. Right now they're a half a game. Yes, but we're going on a scenario if they lose. We're gonna do if they win here. But if they lose tonight, the Mets have the tiebreaker. So the Diamondbacks tie us record-wise at the end of the season. It doesn't matter. We have that wild card spot. They don't. That's including the Braves over the Diamondbacks as well. So say the Diamondbacks lose today, they would be 87 and 72, right? The Mets are 87 and 70, right? That's what they are right now, right? All right, good. So it would be a full 2 games. Now remember, that's going into the last 3 games of the season for the Padres and the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks with 3 games against the Padres, and the Mets would have the 3 games against the Brewers. Not counting the Braves games yet. Those don't matter yet until we know exactly what's going on, right? So the Braves are obviously going to have 86 and 71, right? So they're a game behind us. The Mets take 1 more game, which would be 88. Oh, hold on. 88 and 70 against the Brewers. Let's say if they win game 1, right? The Diamondbacks haven't played yet. If they lose that game, 87 and 73, that's a full 3-game lead against the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks would have to win 2 out of 3 against the Padres to even have 1 game over the Mets overall record-wise. So they would have to take 2 out of 3 in the Padres series. They can't lose 2 out of 3 if the Mets win 1 game, because automatically they can only tie us at that point. But if the Braves win, this is where it gets very tricky. If the Braves win, which is what we want, because we don't want to play those games on Monday, because you only got 28 guys on the roster. Some main guys have to play. Maybe not the pitchers, obviously. You can throw anybody out there. But some of the position players have to play. And you don't want them to get hurt. I'm not saying, they'll still play hard, because if the Braves don't win and they lose, and now the Diamondbacks still have a chance of making the playoffs based on how many games they're back of the Braves, the Mets have to play at least the 1 game in Atlanta on Monday. And it's not even about playing guys. It's the travel. The Mets might have to go to the West Coast from Atlanta. That's the problem. So if the Braves don't win at least 2 out of 3, because again, the Diamondbacks, if the Braves win that first game, they would be tied with the Diamondbacks going into the last 2 games of the season. That means the Diamondbacks are screwed unless they win both games and the Braves lose one of those games. But that's why we need the Braves to win, because we don't want a scenario where the Braves need those games on Monday and we have to play them. I want to avoid those games altogether. So the best case scenario is the Diamondbacks lose today. The Mets are 2 games up officially because of the tiebreaker. Arizona would be a half a game ahead of the Braves. Now, we can solve almost everything here because you need the Diamondbacks to lose. If the Diamondbacks continue to lose and the Braves win, those Monday games don't have to be played. Because what's going to happen is that Arizona is going to need the Braves to lose. But guess what? Those Monday games are going to happen because of Arizona. But we would have to travel to Atlanta for those at least 1 game. But the Mets clinch a playoff berth, regardless if it's 2 or 3. If the D-backs and Braves lose, let's say it doesn't matter, because the Braves and the Diamondbacks, because there's not another team other than the Mets, the Mets are still going to have to go to Atlanta. So that's the problem. Look, if the Mets take 2 out of 3 against the against the Brewers, excuse me, and the Diamondbacks win today, they would be a game up, a game and a half. Hold on. Let me get this straight. They would be tied, but the Mets would have the tiebreaker. So officially 1 game up. So, all right. So, okay. So the Brewers, the Diamondbacks, if they win today, would be 88 and 71. 88 and 71. They would be officially tied, record-wise. But because of the tiebreaker, the Mets still have the 2nd wild card, and the Diamondbacks would be the 3rd wild card. And the Braves would be a game and a half back. Now, if that's the case, the Mets are still in good shape because they would have still a game lead over the Braves. The Mets would have to take 2 out of 3 against the Brewers, and the Braves would have to lose 2 out of 3 to be away from the Braves officially. They would clinch a playoff spot. But if the Diamondbacks win 2 out of 3 and the Braves lose 2 out of 3, I don't think the Braves can tie the Diamondbacks. So that means that scenario would be the Mets and the Diamondbacks make the playoffs, and those Monday games won't matter except for seeding. And the Mets are not going to play those games because of seeding. So the Mets would be going to either San Diego or the Dodgers, but it will be the West Coast. So this is, I tell you, man, guys, this is probably the most interesting live stream I've ever done. I mean, look at this. I don't even know what the hell I did here. I'm trying to make it make sense because there's so many different scenarios. Now, I'm going, since there's no game tomorrow, I'm going to ask Chris, since we were going to do a post game, whatever time tonight, if Chris is available later tonight around 8 o'clock, 8:30, maybe we'll do another live stream, another, I don't know, best case scenario for Mets live stream or something like that. Maybe we'll do that so we can figure it out. If not, I'm going to do a show tomorrow while I'm trying to figure out all the scenarios. Because to try to talk to you guys and not look foolish, which I already am, I don't know what the hell I did here. It kind of makes sense in my head, but to explain it and to not mess it up is like, wow. But I can assure you somebody else is trying to do this as well. But as of right now, the Mets are a half a game up on the Diamondbacks. But with the tiebreaker, it's a game and a half. Okay, we know that for a fact. Depending on if the Diamondbacks win or lose today, right? If they win, they're 87 and 70, 88 and 71 they would be. So they would officially be tied with the Mets, but the Mets have a game in hand because of the tiebreaker. So they'll be 1 up. And the Braves would be a game and a half back. Now, if the Braves lose tomorrow and the Diamondbacks win tomorrow, that would be 2.5 games up. Actually, would that be better for us? No, it wouldn't, because that means that Monday games will matter for the Braves, not for the Mets. Because you would want to be at least, if you're that's the thing. If taking 2 out of 3 and the Braves losing 2 out of 3 would help us clinch a playoff berth, which is all I care about. But I would like to avoid that Monday series just for travel purposes. So, oh man, it's going to be crazy. All right, forget about the stand-ins and all this. This is crazy. I gotta figure this out at some point and go really down. Well, let's see. If the Mets, all right, so the Mets have 87 wins. If they go 3-2, which would be 90 and 72, right? Correct? Yes. The Diamondbacks would have to go 4-0, which would get them to no. If they go 4-0, that is 91 wins. That doesn't help us. That would be 91 and 71. Yes, the Diamondbacks would pass us at that point, and then those Brave games matter. So, welcome to Mets Talk Live Mathematics edition. Geometry is next. If anybody is is ready for that. Right now, I'm doing calculus because guys, listen, going live and trying to do all this is not pretty. I tell you that much. So, oh man, I gotta figure again, guys. We're gonna do about another 10 minutes, 12 minutes of this show, so I can really break it all down here. And I'll make sure my dad is helping me out with this because he actually can do a hell of a lot better in math than I can. But we're going to figure it out. And if there's not a show tonight with Chris, as we can both figure this out, we'll have a show tomorrow for sure just to figure out what the hell's going on. So, all right. Let's say everybody wins. Let's say the Diamondbacks win all four. They would be 91 and 71. That's the D-backs. Hold on, let me get this down. If the Mets win all three games, they would have 90 and 70. What the hell am I doing? I'm so confused. Okay, they would be 90 and 70 because there's 2 games left in the season with the Braves. Okay, that makes sense. So 90 and 70 for the Mets. And the Braves win all three, they would be 89 and 71. Braves. So those Mets Braves Monday game will matter because the Diamondbacks would have a game over the Mets officially. The Mets would have to win one game of that Brave series. And the Braves would have to win. No, we would have to play the 2 games on Monday because if we win one game, we're tied with the Diamondbacks. So we would want the Braves to win both of those games because then they kick the Diamondbacks to the 3rd spot. And because we would have to win one of those games. Holy Christ, this is crazy. Jesus Lord. We would need the Diamondbacks to go 3-1 in the last 4 games. Yeah, but again, let me home slice. Listen, yeah, I'm not talking about clinching in the division. I'm trying to avoid that Monday series. So the Mets don't have to travel from Milwaukee to Atlanta. They would have to travel Sunday after the game to Atlanta on Monday. Whenever that game ends, sometime at night of the second game, they would have to fly, depending on their seeding, either back to Milwaukee and even worst case scenario to the West Coast to play either the Padres or the Dodgers. So I'm not worried about if the Mets win, they're in. We all know that, right? If they go 3-1, if they go 2 out of 3, that is 89 wins. And the Diamondbacks lose today, that's 3 games, right? It's still going to matter. Those 2 games on Monday won't matter. The Mets will still have to travel. See, regardless of what's going to happen, the Mets are going to have to travel to play those Monday games, regardless if they need them or not. Unless the Mets sweep the Brewers, the Braves sweep the Kansas City Royals, and the Diamondbacks would have to lose 2 out of 3 against the Padres because the Braves would be up a half a game on the right because the Diamondbacks don't have the tiebreaker against either of us. So, geez, all right, I'm gonna do all this math later on. Let's just talk about the Mets as a scenario here. What are the Mets gonna do going into this Brewers series pitching wise? Let's talk about that because that's more of a conversation, right? The math is, I mean, Einstein needs to figure this crap out. But all because MLB screwed everything up here and waited until 5 p.m. on Wednesday to cancel both games when they could have played probably today somewhere else, or both games if you wanted to play a doubleheader in Milwaukee or somewhere else, a neutral site. They couldn't do that, even though they moved the Tampa-Detroit series somewhere else, game somewhere else. Like, geez. Correct, Daniel. And again, it's not the scenario of that's clinching, right? That's easy. If the Diamondbacks would have to go 3-2, the Mets would have to go. We'll see. No, just only talk about the 3 games. Let's not talk about the Brave games, because the Brave games don't matter for the Mets to clinch the playoffs, right? Because of the fact that the Diamondbacks would have to be within 2 games by the end of Sunday. But no, sorry. They would have to be 1 game behind the Mets officially to actually have a chance where those Monday games matter for the Mets. So it's more about clinching in this Brewer series, a playoff spot. And that involves the Mets and Braves winning and the Diamondbacks falling on their face. That's why tonight's game, we need the Diamondbacks to lose, because that's officially 2 games up on the Diamondbacks officially because of the tiebreaker. Officially, record-wise, 1 game, but because of the tiebreaker, it's 2 games. And the Mets would only have to win 1 game to clinch a playoff berth, because it wouldn't matter, because there would be 3 games up, and the Diamondbacks would have to sweep the Padres just to have a tiebreaker with the Mets, and then the Mets would need at least 1 game or both games or at least 1 game against the Braves on Monday. It's crazy. Like, I gotta really write it all down. I gotta get a whiteboard and start writing all this stuff down. This is crazy, 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 crazy. Wow, my head hurts. I wonder why I never liked math. I agree, Cindy. They could have played Monday. They could have played one of those games Monday, and they could have got at least 2 games in. I agree 200%. But this is where Major League Baseball is such idiots, because they don't know what they're doing. This weather has been known for at least a week. Now, I'm not saying a week ago they should have decided, but on the weekend, there should have been a decision. Listen, guys, we're going to fly to Atlanta, and we're going to play one of the games on Monday, and Tuesday would be game 2. And then game 3 could be on Monday if necessary. But they didn't do that. The missing 2 games in this schedule fucks up all the scenarios for all 3 teams involved. It's ridiculous. It's such a bad job canceling this game so late, because it guarantees 2 games are still part of the schedule. That's why by Sunday, the Mets only have to be up a half a game. If they can be 2.5 games up on the Diamondbacks by the end of Sunday, the Mets clinch a playoff berth. Now, it's up to the Mets and the Braves to care about seeding. If they both don't want to care about it, then they don't have to play the games on Monday. That's where I'm trying to get at here. So that's why you need the Braves to win and the Diamondbacks to at least lose 2 more times out of the next 4. Because that means the Braves will have the tiebreaker on the Diamondbacks, and the Braves and the Mets will be in the playoffs. Major League Baseball can't force the 2 teams to play those games for seeding. If the Mets want to play, which I doubt, because nobody wants to pitch anybody important in those games on Monday if they don't have to, for seeding purposes. Because, yeah, the Mets probably, I don't think anybody wants to travel from Atlanta to the West Coast and then play the next day. But here's the other scenario. Will Major League Baseball move that wild card series one day? Instead of playing on Tuesday, they start the NL wild card on Wednesday. If they do that, then playing those games on Monday still gives the other teams days off, a day off to travel and to get situated. But here's the problem. The Mets are going to have to pitch important pitchers like Manaea and Peterson in this Brewers series, which takes them out of Monday if those games are important. That means Severino will possibly be available for one of those two games. And Quintana is probably going to pitch in the Brewers series. So who is going to pitch that second game against Atlanta on Monday if that game is really needed for the Mets? Tyler McGill? It's going to be crazy. And Atlanta would have to use all their pitchers as well. So it's so bad for both of the Mets and Atlanta to need those games on Monday. If they both need those games on Monday, that means they played really bad in the Brewers against the Brewers and Kansas City. Holy Christ. Yeah, you might have to do something like that. But again, missing nobody. Yeah, you could put Budo in there. But then again, he's not going to be available for at least 2 games in a wild card probably because there's no off day if they play on Tuesday. It's crazy. Yeah, Atlanta also gets screwed as well. And this is why baseball completely screwed it up. MLB messed it up. Because all they had to do was get one more game in this series. And that last game might not matter at all. Because 2 games are left on the schedule. Now, this can all be for nothing. If the Diamondbacks go 1-3 and the Braves and the Mets go 2-3, the Braves will have the tiebreaker against Arizona, and those games on Monday don't have to be played at all. And maybe the Mets and the Braves will decide to flip a coin for seed-in, or they just go by season series, and the Braves will get the second wild card, and the Mets will get the third wild card, and they would stay in Milwaukee, the Mets. And then those Monday games won't be played. Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? You want, what you want is the Padres to take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers or even sweep them, and those games they're gonna really need to beat the hell out of the Diamondbacks in the last 3 games. Well, yeah, Gates, I understand the Royals are playing for a wild card spot against the Braves, but the Braves are playing for something too, right? But you don't want the Braves to lose because that's a terrible scenario. Well, technically, no. Look, if the Mets clinch prior to that Monday, then who cares what the Braves do again in that Monday games? But the Mets will still have to travel back to Atlanta and still have to be there in those games. Now, they can remember the Mets can only have 28 guys on a roster. They can't add 10 guys from the minors to play those games. This isn't 5 years ago when you can have 40 guys on a roster and play all your minor leaguers. You can't do that. Certain guys are going to have to play. Obviously, if the Mets don't need those games, Lindor's not going to play. You might just keep him in Milwaukee on standby. And if they got to go to the West Coast, charter them over there. But you don't want Lindor being on planes 3 times in 2 days. It's crazy with his back, right? The pitchers that are not going to pitch in that series if the Mets don't need those games on Monday, just fly all those guys or have them ready to go as soon as they know they're seeding, fly them out there together because you don't need to pitch anybody important. You can pitch, I don't know, you can send somebody down, like, I don't know, crazy. Well, it's a doubleheader, so you'll be able to get an extra guy. So the Mets will probably bring up a pitcher to pitch that Monday game. It's crazy. Yeah, oh yeah, the Royals are going to play tough. But again, you don't want the Braves to lose. You could, because that benefits the Mets. Look, it's not about the Mets clinching. The Mets control their own destiny by just winning 2 out of 3 against the Brewers. Winning 2 out of 3 against the Brewers knocks out Arizona's tiebreaker against us. They can't catch us. They can catch the Braves, depending on what the Braves do. This is why, if the Diamondbacks lose tomorrow, the Mets only need to win one game officially. And the Diamondbacks have to lose one more game in their next 3 games after today. If the Diamondbacks lose today, the Mets need 1 game to win and 1 loss from the Diamondbacks. And the Diamondbacks can only tie us, and the Mets will clinch a playoff berth. It's just a matter of, does the Braves tie the Diamondbacks or go ahead 2 games more on the Diamondbacks? Because if the Braves are up 2 games on the Diamondbacks, those Monday games don't have to be played at all, and we solve our issue. So the Mets take, if the Diamondbacks lose tonight and lose 1 more game against the Padres in the final 3 games of the season, and the Mets win 1 of those games in Milwaukee, they're automatically in a playoff break. Because even if the Mets drop down and the Braves pass us in the second wild card, the Diamondbacks can't do better than us. Because we would be up officially 3 games, officially, and the Diamondbacks, even if the Mets lose 2 games on Monday, if they had to play them, the Diamondbacks can't catch us. So it's crazy, guys. Holy Christ. All right, guys. So we're going to end this stream because I really want to figure out all the scenarios for the Mets to avoid the Monday games. All right? My dad just screamed out. He's already starting his little mathematics. So maybe we'll have it quicker. If I have it down correctly and it looks good, I'm going to post it on my community page. And I'm going to take a picture of it so you have it. And then tomorrow, or maybe later tonight, but most likely tomorrow, me and Chris will probably do a show so we can break it all down better than trying to do it while I'm live. Because I was trying to do it in my head, writing it down and trying to keep you guys, entertained. And I don't, maybe this was entertaining, making me look like a fool, but hey, it's fun, right? I don't mind, right? Officially, this is what I have. Can't explain it any more than what I did, but I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible. So, we're rooting for the Giants tonight. Let's go, Giants. And let's go, Padres, over the next couple of games. So, with that said, guys, thank you for tuning in to a special edition Mets Talk Live that was supposed to be a pregame, trying to figure out math in a crazy way in all types of scenarios for the Mets, Braves, and Diamondbacks. But I'm going to have it all figured out at least by tomorrow. If I figure it out all tonight and it looks good, I'll post it on my community page and take a picture of it so you guys can see the scenarios and what best suits the Mets for making the playoffs and clinching in the Brewer series, and how to avoid that Monday series, the last 2 games against Atlanta, which is very hard unless the Braves actually win and the Diamondbacks continue to lose. So we're going to do it. We're going to figure it out. With that said, guys, thank you for tuning in to another show on Talkin' Mets with Rob. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Whew, I'm tired. I'm sweating. I'm hot. With that said, guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Take a breather, guys. Regardless of what happens in Milwaukee, the Mets aren't officially out of the playoffs. It could have been doomsday if we played these games in Atlanta, these next 2 nights, but we're not. So focus is Milwaukee in 2 days on Friday. So enjoy your time as a Mets fan, not worrying about the Mets in Atlanta, a game up on the Braves, because it can be very different by Sunday. With that said, guys, have a great night. Let's go, Mets. If you're a new subscriber of the channel, thank you so much. Keep on coming back for more. If you aren't a subscriber but are watching, please subscribe to the channel. If you're on X, hop over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching on Twitch, hop over to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Have a good night, guys. Let's go, Mets. Met fans. Take a deep breath. We will be okay. Have a great night, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. Watch out on the community page. Hit that notification button. You'll get a notification that I posted on my community page with all the scenarios for the Mets making the playoffs, for the Mets not playing on Monday, for the Mets playing on Monday. So we're not just going to look at the Mets scenarios. We're going to look at the Braves and the Diamondback scenarios because that determines if the Mets are going to be playing or traveling to Atlanta on Monday to play those 2 games. With that said, have a good night, guys. Let's go, Mets. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Welcome to Talkin' Mets with Rob. Subscribe to the channel for all your New York Mets in-game live, pre-game, post-game, roundtable podcast, and all the breaking news for our New York Mets. Enjoy the show and let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets